Welcome to the Grief series. This series is good for anyone that's on their grief journey or if you're supporting somebody that is on their journey. Today is episode 7, Responsibility of a Griever. And yes, I'm saying that there is a responsibility for us as grievers. Like, yes, you lost a loved one. It hurts. You're heartbroken. You've changed and your identity, like so much has gone on and there's been so much shift in your life, and you're not going to be the person that you were before your lost loved one, but there still is a responsibility on us as grievers. We still have day-to-day tasks that have to be completed. If you have a role of going to work or being a spouse or being a parent, or being a student, like whatever your role is in life, you still have a living duty and responsibility to attend to. And I guess you could say that I'm being like your accountability partner because, doing these videos and putting this information out, sometimes people can take this information and add it to their self-pity and take it in the wrong manner. And that's just what I'm hoping will not happen. And that's kind of why I'm doing this episode, is just to bring that accountability and explain how we have a responsibility and we have a duty ourselves as grievers. Sometimes we do need outside support from our family or friends or the community, therapy, anything like that to help us process our grief and to manage it. But that doesn't take away the fact that we also still have that responsibility and that we can't put it intentionally on these other people because we don't want to take the responsibility ourselves. Like emotional dumping. That's kind of where I'm getting at, is like, are you going to these people saying like, oh, hey, take my grief, but I don't want to process it, but I'm just going to keep dumping it on these other people? You still have a responsibility to do your own healing. It's not on everybody else. It is all on you. Like, there's only so much everybody else on the outside of us can do for us during the grief. They can support us in any manner that they possibly can. If that is helping with childcare or listening or helping with your house or making phone calls, things like that. But they aren't going to be able to actually go within you and actually help you walk through your grief. They're just going to be able to sit beside you while you go through it. And again, although we do have a broken heart, we're hurting, we still also have, again, that duty of managing our own grief. And that will lead me into like the next episode. The next one will be about, how do you manage your grief? How do you cope? But I'm going to stick on here on episode 7 about taking responsibility. And also, we can't withdraw. As much as like we would like to stop the world because we lost a loved one and it's so impactful on us and we could think about me. Yes, it's important to think about ourselves and to have self-care, but the world isn't revolving around us. We have our own things in our life, and so does everybody else. The world does not stop, and it keeps going. And I have understood, in grief, is that's part of the grief journey, and that's part of good healing, is that you understand that, yes, you lost a loved one, and the world still keeps turning. Life still goes on, and you have to now adjust to this life without that loved one. And I'm not saying this because it's easy. It's not easy. It's a whole identity shift. More comes with it. And I just don't want anybody to fall into this self-pity party that you got to put your grief on everybody else, or you don't even have to process your grief, but then you're going to sit here and lash out on people or become irate and have this pity party of like, oh, well, I'm hurting and I'm going to make these excuses as to why my actions are this way is because I'm grieving a lost loved one. It's not anybody else's responsibility to take on your grief. It is your responsibility. And I'm just holding everybody accountable because I kind of fear that people will take this information as, see, somebody else is co-signing my feelings and how I think and why I should feel this way, because it is hard and I should give myself grace. And like, yes, there has to be a balance of it though. Section out time to focus on your grief. Section out the time for self-care. You can't do it all day long where you can't work. And I'm not saying that you can't take time off. I think that's absolutely necessary and what works for you. But I think when it comes to the level where you're pushing it and you're kind of abusing the system. And there is going to be those exceptions that people do fall into a deep depression and they need to seek more serious help. I'm not like a healthcare professional where I am telling you this specific information for people that are struggling a little bit harder. that's something that you would want to reach out to your own practitioners. But I'm talking to the people that can use it and sabotage the information and kind of take advantage of it. I just hope to have those people avoid doing that because, again, I'm going to say it again, it is our responsibility as the grievers to grieve and manage our grief. It's nobody else's. It's not right if we're going to go lash out at other people because we're hurting. Yes, give yourself grace that maybe you might not respond well to a situation. But then again, it comes back to you're an adult. And you can go back to that person and say, you know what, I was feeling extra emotional because I am going through this, but that's no excuse and no reason to justify my actions that I apologize. Like something like that. And that's kind of where I'm getting the point across is I'm trying to help you guys avoid that kind of self-pity party that you might have. And lastly, it's our duty to start our healing. If you haven't opened that door to your grief and you're being nasty to other people or pointing the finger or you're kind of starting to get stuck in your grief, it's still your duty to start that healing process. And I say healing in more of a loose manner because if you think of healing of like a wound on your arm, it would heal and it would become wholesome. And with grief, you're not going to become wholesome. You're kind of forever changed. And in grief, healing is more of a decrease in the pain of how you feel with the grief. It doesn't just go away, but the more that you process and the more that you work through it, if it's through various ways that I'll be discussing in the next episode, but various ways of processing and healing your grief and going through it, the less bothersome that you'll be about the loss of your loved one. Because regardless, I think it's just going to suck. There's going to be like a level of suckiness, but it's just not going to be as painful and, again, bothersome if you don't start healing. Well, thanks for tuning into this one. I know that one was a little bit more direct, and I'm sure some of you don't want to hear that, but I had to make sure that I got that information out there to be your accountability partner. Yes, we are hurting. Yes, we're brokenhearted and we're grieving and we're in a tough spot, more emotional, but that doesn't take away the fact that we as grievers still have a duty and a responsibility and day-to-day tasks and a life to keep living, even though we have lost this loved one. And if you want to share any information down below, or if something stood out to you, or if you're upset at what I was saying and you want to share that too, or if you have other tips for other people and say, you know what, I used to do this, or this is how I take responsibility, or this is how I heal, anything of that sort, please comment below. This is a community we're trying to build. I don't know everything. I'm just coming from a place of my own grief journey and sharing it with you guys. Until next time.